Okay, I want to talk about no dog, obviously, no dogs. I want to talk about when we are drafting that we can be borrowing commands and things that we do from other sports. Okay, and what I mean by that, I'll illustrate a little bit through a story. So, my first dog, I was trying to teach him how to stop. Sounds very basic. And I was doing draft and I thought, oh, it'll be cool. I'll teach him whoa. I'll teach him this. When I say whoa, he halts, like say for the load or the unload, he halts and then he'll sit. This would be great. I'll teach him whoa. What a cool word. It's gotta be great. Okay. The dog never learned that word. Like never, ever. And one of the days when I was training or doing something, actually, no, I was not training. I was walking my dogs in the neighborhood, and I do walk my dogs on a flexi. No judgment, don't want to hear about it. And one of my kind of life skill words is to say wait. And when I say wait, whether it's in the house or at the end of a leash, they have to stop. It's almost like a freeze command, right? Stop what you're doing, and don't move until I release you. Okay. I do use wait in the obedience ring, like when I leave my dog for a recall, right? I use wait at the start line of agility. Basically, I use wait whenever I'm going to give them another command and let them move, right? So I'm going to release them from the start line in agility. I'm going to recall them to me in obedience. And in draft, I might have them just stand or sit or something, but they're not going to move forward until I move forward. So there I was walking my dog on a flexi and I said wait, and he stopped dead. And I was like, like face palm. Like, why don't I just say wait in draft, right? So the next time I hitched him up, I wanted him to halt. I said wait, he stopped dead. It's like magic, right? And I was like, you dummy, right? I was like, why don't you just use the words he already knows? Like, why do you have to be so clever? Just because it's another venue, it's another type of ring, and yes, the context is different. He's got a harness on, he's got a cart attached to him, the surroundings are different. Yes, all the things are different. It doesn't mean it needs a different word, okay? So I started, which actually is kind of freeing, right? Because he already knew the command that I needed him to have. I just was looking at it wrong. So I started to look at the entire maneuvering ring that way. And what else was I either making too hard, or I wasn't borrowing enough of what he already knew, okay? Because this is my first draft dog that we're talking about, Karma, for those of you who knew him. So he already knew wait. That was on a verbal. He already knew stand. So my stand, I'm sitting, so it's hard to show you, but my stand is like this. And I use my stand, this is my dog, I'm using my stand in obedience and in rally, right? So stand, okay, he's got that, that's useful. Back, we were pretty good at. I do a back like this and I say scoot. Some people say beep, some people say back, but I go like this. I do that in the house, I do that in the kitchen. I do that all like in life, right? What else? So in agility, if I want him to turn away from me, so if he's on my left, and I realize some of this video thing is mirrored, so my left and right is not yours, but if he's on my side and I want him, and if I'm going left and I want him to turn away from me, in agility I would turn into him, right? And I would use an outside arm. So do that, I told myself. So I did that. He was like, yeah, got it. And then when I wanted him to turn this way, I would rotate my shoulder and I would bring my hand up and kind of like a touch, like if I wanted him to come nose touch to that, I would like bring him in, right? Also an agility thing, also something he knows, also kind of a rally thing is you turn your shoulders. Obedience, we do a lot of shoulder turns, right, as well. So what I'm telling you is if you are having a problem in the ring, or you're not getting something, or you're trying to just simplify your lives, borrow from other venues. And if the other venue is your kitchen, borrow from your kitchen, right? I say wait in the house, I have a backup, I have a scoot, a backup in the house, down, sit, stand, like it's all the same. Don't make it harder. Don't reinvent things, okay? Now, that said, if you have a habit you are trying to break, okay, like I once helped somebody who when she said heel, she'd done so much obedience that when she said heel, her dog was like in freaking heel position. Well, those of us who cart knows that that just means bruises. Because if your dog is in like a perfect obedience heel position, that shaft is hitting you in all kinds of places, okay? So she found that actually she had to work her dog on the off side and just say, let's go, I think is what she ended up saying, or with me or something. She had to change it because her heel in that moment, that command, was so ingrained in that dog so specifically, and she didn't want to mess up a good heel, right, where it sometimes meant this or it sometimes meant that, that she changed what she was doing, okay? So it's like taking something that you have, but if you need to retrain it, put a different word on it, change the context to it, right? So for me, I never had said heel in draft. I always say let's go. And I use a hand command like this, kind of like you do when you're using signals. That's the word. Signals in obedience or in utility, kind of like that kind of command. But I say let's go, right? And they're not next to me. They're not exactly with me. So I want you, when you are practicing draft, to really sit down and think about your signals and your vocabulary that you're using. What can you borrow from, or what is so ingrained that you don't really want that exact thing, so you might need to think of a different word, okay? I've had people retrain their back, and so then they start changing the word if they want to do it next to each other, next to them. Things like for narrow. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. So go through the entire maneuvering course in your brain and think about what you would say or do at each thing, and think about if there's any other place that you can borrow from, okay? If you're doing stand for exam, or, in another thing, and the person's doing the pat, the greeting of the dog, right? Okay. Or load and unload, and you don't want your dog to go greet the friendly steward. Do you say leave it? I'm kind of making things up, but the point is go through the ring, go through all the maneuvering exercises, and see what your dog already knows. Chances are your dog knows a lot more things than you think, and there are things where you can borrow from other venues. It's not going to be 100%, but from experience, I bet it's more than you think, okay? All right, that is my soapbox on borrowing signals, verbals, and physical cues for the draft train, okay? Okay.